I think I speak for all of us here. Isn't that just a wonderfully moving story? I always find it very inspiring. I've seen it a couple of times right now. We're going to have a few minutes of, I'm going to start some questions, and then I'll turn it all over to you and let you bring your questions to them as well. So first of all, I'd like to start with you, Pearl. Let me know a little bit about how did you get involved in the program, and what has it been like for you?
It was about 2002, and they decided in my high school to give the students about 30 minutes on Fridays of, just something you want to do, just an activity. And they sent around this paper that had, really exciting things on it, like dominoes and spades. And I was like, oh yeah, this is great stuff. And then poetry. And then that, obviously, it was a no-brainer. So I started like that, about 10 of us at the time. And it's been a long time. And I just know where else to go but to a place where not only did they accept that you had something to say, they encourage it. They're uncensored, it's safe. It's just a place where you just can find out who you are, find a voice, and just really grow as a person. So.
Excellent. And Amy, for you, could you give us an idea of how you came up with the idea? What has been like along the way?
Well, the idea was an evolutionary idea. I had been running another not-for-profit that was involved with bringing kids to the theater, and I decided that it needed a broader component and that kids needed to really respond to the things that they experienced in the world and how they related to works of art in the world. So I wrote a grant to the NEA, and surprisingly I got it, and then I actually had to do the program. And I had met Joe at this school because I'd worked with them. Joe is this genius teacher. Roland was a friend of mine from the film world, and I knew Roland was making a film about the history of education, yet had not stepped into a school for probably 20 years. So I embarrassed him and said, "You really ought to go into a school, Roland, if you're going to make this movie. So would you do this?" And he kind of said, "Yeah, maybe." And anyway, we ended up working as a school, and really the program itself and the work, as you see it on the screen, evolved from the kids. We really did not create a curriculum. Everything that happens in this program evolves out of the children's lives. So that's the genesis of the program, and the kids are the ones who have made it as spectacular, I think, spectacularly successful as it is.
So what's next? What's next for all of you?
We want to continue doing this program. We've been doing it for 10 years, and we probably have another 20 or 50 years left in us before we're going to have to...
Collectively.
Collectively. We also have the ideas in the film, the empowerment through literacy, have generated something called Power Poetry, which you saw a little place to text to, and that's a transmedia project that we've evolved that will eventually become sustainable and belong to youngsters. And it will be the world's first online poetry community for youth. And it'll be based in cell phone technology, because that's where, as you all know, kids live. And they text on an average of 50 times a day. The idea here is to create not just a space where kids can share their poetry and compose it and get feedback on it, but also a space where they can use their poetry to change the world. So we're going to partner with hundreds, maybe thousands of NGOs. And you can imagine Karina writing a poem about missing her dad in prison, and that poem being mounted on our site and on cell phones, and then being picked up by a real organization called NoNewPrisons.org. And then they mount it. And then not only do they just mount her poem, they see that she's actually a really damn good writer, and maybe she gets hired to help them write their next campaign about prison reform. And then you have kids who are using their creativity and their art to change the world. So that's what's next, beyond our ability to sort of teach and travel around and talk to you guys.
Anything you'd like to ask them about?
All the way in the back.
Oh, sorry.
All the way in the back.
Wait.
Yeah, I have a question, two questions for Pearl. The first question is, what would you be doing today had you not done this program? Where do you imagine you would be? And the second question is, how
Did you all hear the question?
Good questions.
Well, I was originally, for high school, accepted to art and design. I thought that's what I wanted to do, design clothes, I guess. But I looked up a website for University Heights, and it said that, well, they lied, obviously, but they said that they had a lot more than art and design could give me. I was so excited. It had, you know, just a lot of just programs and just, you know, just the things you could, like college courses and such. And when I got there, they had like one piece of construction paper, and I was like, that is not art. And those crayons are broken. I don't understand. But then pot writing started. So I'm guessing, I say this to Amy every chance I get. I just think, because I came to them so broken, just so lost, that I would continue to have stayed inside myself. Just, I've always been sort of a writer, just love to write short stories and live in my own world, because you know what you go through is not enough for you to want to stay into this reality sometimes. So, but without pot writing, yeah, I would just continue to just, you know, it's always really scary to think about where you'd be. I mean, I probably wouldn't be this awesome person that I am now. And my studies, well, I mean, you saw it all. I'm going to Sarah Lawrence, so I'm just really excited. And
Humility is a big part of what we teach our students. Constantly encouraging them.
yeah, so I'm gonna study women's studies, anthropology, just a lot of things, because I want to start small programs all over the world where young women could sustain themselves and have, you know, save themselves and, you know, build themselves up. So, I mean, that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, I'm sure. And write books.
Oh, yeah. I was wondering if there's ever been a time, like, when they've sort of taught you something, like it's been opposite.
That was not the question I thought you were going to ask. And the answer is, thank you for teaching me about how you ask questions. That, yes, all the time. I would have to say, and this is probably true for us, that we've learned far more in the 10 years than we've taught. Our kids are amazingly good interpreters of the universe, and it's just an honor to be with them.
I learned about, I couldn't agree more, I learned about courage. I never was one of those kids who wrote in journals when I was young, and showing up to the class for a couple of years, basically every Friday, and watching these kids who were, you know, 14, 15, sometimes 13, you know, young. I mean, I thought of myself at that age, was just terrified of everything. And hearing them and seeing them just pour out their lives and their souls to their peers, which is something that I knew I would never have had the balls to do when I was that age. So I kind of started writing poetry when I was making this film. And there was one point when I read to the class, and I was like, if they can do it every day, then I'd be a punk. If I could do it, just show up and watch and not participate. So that's something that I learned. I've learned to write a bit, and I learned about bravery from these teenagers.